are now listening to a Forward Mile Podcast Network production.
All right, and welcome into the next edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. We are sitting here full strength in the studio, and it's been a while since we've been all sitting here, and especially Spike. He hasn't been in the new studio yet.
No, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, it is, definitely. I thought it was west of the old studio, but Anthony corrected me really quickly because directions are hard in my life. So we sit here in studio, fresh off of a Webb Simpson win at Sawgrass, the Players' Championship. Anthony, was a pretty interesting. It was a pretty good weekend. Tiger actually was. I don't want to use the back word because he wasn't back, but Tiger.
He was making moves, is how I would word it. He was making moves, is how I would word it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I tweeted it this weekend, and I said, I know Tiger's not officially back, but it's nice to see that he's not miserable on a golf course.
Yeah, absolutely. Big thing for me this weekend, how Webb Simpson just destroyed that second round with his phenomenal golfing.
Yeah, what was he, 9 under the second round?
He finished 9 under, but he was 11 under going into hole 17 and then double bogeyed 17.
Yeah, so the number, especially speaking of 17, the number we set for hole 17, what do we set the balls in the water at, 20?
Something like that.
Yeah, they eclipsed that on day one, or day two, early in the
I think it was day two, yeah.
Yeah, I think there was the total was in the 50s or 60s, so
yeah,
we shot that one a little low. Spike, did you watch some golf this weekend?
Why the fuck would I do that?
Because it's an awesome sport.
No, it really isn't.
It's better than college football punters.
That's true. All right, I'll give you that. I'll grant you that little caveat.
So we know in the grand hierarchy of when we want Spike to watch sports, we can get him to watch golf over college football. So that's good to know.
College football punting.
Oh, just the punting part?
Yeah, just the punting. College football I can still watch.
So on fourth down, we can switch the channel over to the Masters. Or no, the Masters and college football don't coincide, but the FedEx Cup.
Yeah.
Or since we have two TVs in the studio, you can turn your attention over to the PGA Championship on fourth down.
I mean, one of these has to have HBO or something, right?
No HBO. We didn't pay that.
Oh,
we don't
on!
We don't pay for premium cable in the studio.
Jesus.
No, but it does have the MLB Extra Innings package and the NHL Center Ice package.
That shit you can stream for free. I don't know why you don't pay for HBO, though.
Because HBO's garbage. What's on HBO that I want to watch?
Game of Thrones.
No, I don't.
What?
I'm wrong.
Game of Thrones is amazing.
I've watched a few episodes of Game of Thrones. It didn't interest me. It's a fantasy world that didn't capture my attention.
Well, then you're an idiot. They also have Insecure, which is unbelievable. I'm not the target audience for that show, very clearly.
Okay, well, no, you can't just. What is Insecure?
Insecure is written by a woman named Issa Rae, who did.
Issa Rae? Was she Jar Jar Binks' cousin?
No.
Issa Rae.
She's she did a web series called Awkward Black Girl or something, but it's basically this really out of place black girl and her relationships and her friends and everything else.
Sounds right up my alley.
I mean, it's an HBO sitcom, so it's got vulgarities and nudity and sex and everything else, but it's actually really interesting, really well done.
Okay, you're batting 0 for 2 here.
Really well produced. All right, I mean, if we're talking premium channels, we could even go over to Showtime.
I enjoyed Shameless
and watch Billions.
Yeah, Billions.
Billions is unbelievable.
Do you have ESPN 8?
Ocho. I might. I think it's in the 1200s region.
We could go to Stars and watch Black Sails. That show's unreal.
Isn't that a pirate show?
Yes, there's so much good TV out there, especially on the premium channels. Just get off your fucking cheapskate ass and pay for it.
Or you could turn on channel 2 217.
Spike, you need to calm
Channel.
down there. I think I heard a tapping underneath the table.
Never.
We talked about premium cable. All I heard
Dude.
was...
I am so amped up just to get out of the house with the goddamn puppy in it.
Oh, yeah, you got a new puppy. That's
Yeah.
right.
Smitty.
My wife, for the second time in 2 years, decided to take a sick day, and instead of actually staying home being sick,
You got a dog?
She drove to Kingman, Arizona, because a shelter out there got a litter of puppies, and she grabbed the chillest one out of the bunch, which she thought was the chillest one, but oh no. Oh no.
Well, that dog just means your dog is smart, because it knows if I want to get adopted, I have to play it cool.
Exactly.
So if I play it cool now, I can act like a complete asshole when I get to your house.
Right. And now the other problem is that the wife, her favorite player on the Golden Knights is Nate Schmidt. She named the dog Schmidt, and now she refuses to yell at it because she doesn't want to yell at Schmidt.
That's a strange correlation. What kind of dog is it?
We don't entirely know. It was listed as a lab mix, but I think it's more probably German Shepherd mix. I posted a picture on the internet. Somebody said probably German Shepherd and Beagle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got kind of like...
Well, Nate Schmidt looks like a beagle. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got those, flappy ears and his little mohawk. And that's all right. My dog has a mohawk, but we didn't name him Schmidt. We named him Stanley after the Stanley Cup. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Anywho, actually, tell you what, speaking of that, if the Knights happen to win the Stanley Cup and I can get around it somehow, I think I'm going to sneak the dog and sit him inside the cup. If I ever get a chance to be near the cup, that's what I'm going to do. Stanley in Stanley. So
Fair enough.
Just came up with that today.
I mean, the cup, if the Knights win it, it will be all around Vegas at various points over the summer. So,
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, you'll be able to do something.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, we appreciate you listening to Vegas Squares. That's the end of the bet. No, I'm just kidding. Just want to thank our sponsors, Forward Mile Podcast Network. You can catch them on forwardmile.com. Subscribe to their daily fantasy service and get access to our premium podcast. You can also listen to us every Tuesday and Saturday on the 12-ounce Sports Radio Network. You can catch them at 12ozsportsradio.com. And also, you can listen to all of our podcasts on our website, vegassquares.com. And I want to also thank our other sponsor, chaipoker.net. So, let's go back into the golf, and something I hadn't seen in a while. You talked about it. You texted me the other day, Token Tony, was Koepka with the Albatross.
Oh, yeah. Hell of a shot. It was on a hole that I didn't think it would be on, though.
It was on 16, right?
Yeah, it was on 16. If anybody had a double eagle / albatross, I thought it would be hole 2. That was probably playing the easiest of the par 5s.
Right. I mean, the thing with 16, and just from my basic knowledge of the course, is that the majority of the golfers, especially ones who are trying to climb the leaderboard, go for that shot, that second shot.
Oh,
because it's usually
you have to. It's high risk, high reward.
It's usually actually low risk, high reward.
Well, you got a little of the water in play usually on the Sunday with
Right, and that's what made me kind of more intrigued by the shot and more impressed with the shot, because the pin position on Sunday is usually on the right. When golfers play that, they're usually playing for an eagle, and they usually play it to land left of the green or
Left or center.
left side of the green. But he literally aimed it for the right side and dunked it right in. That's what made it so impressive to me.
hopped once and in.
Yeah. So if you don't know by now, Webb Simpson won at TPC Sawgrass.
Yeah, it was pretty much over after the second round.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, he was technically wire to wire by if you include ties, because he was tied for first after the first day and never wavered on that lead.
Yeah.
So let's look at the bets we had for this weekend. A couple guys faded out. Charles Schwartzel ended up being a pretty decent pick.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he didn't win. It's hard to pick a winner. I mean, nobody saw Webb Simpson at 225-1 coming out of nowhere and shooting 9 under, or what did he finish at? 19 under?
18 under.
18 under.
Yeah, he was 1 over on in his final round.
So who else did we have? We had Siwoo Kim, who finished with a decent round.
Yeah.
Oosthuizen, your boy, decided he didn't want to show up on the weekend. So
he played a short week.
Yeah, so same with Rory as well. JT, all of them played well. Obviously, it's hard to pick a winner. The matchup bets were really strong.
Yeah.
Really strong this week. Tiger Woods.
He got lucky to make it the cut, but
that was the crazy thing.
Spieth and DJ, I believe, both bogeyed 18 to move the cut line to -1.
It wasn't Spieth. Spieth was,
Or was it JT? And
I think it was Thomas and Dustin Johnson.
Yeah.
Both bogeyed to move the cut back because it was projected at -2 for
-2, and
most of the day.
They both did it and dropped down to -1, and I think somebody else dropped a shot that was.
Yeah, because Spieth was on the cut line as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, for both those guys, because they both had good weekends. For both those guys to be, so close to being home for the weekend, to both shooting great performances. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. What does this mean for Tiger? A day like this on a course that I understand he plays really well, but it's kind of a roller coaster for him. He either plays it really well. He's also missed the cut there, I think, twice.
Yeah. I think this is the best week I've seen him play probably in
5 years.
About 5 years or so, yeah.
Well, he won this tournament in 2013.
Yeah. He's
only won one tournament since, as far as, we're not even talking about just majors, we're just talking about golf tournaments.
Yeah. I think he put it together. I just looked at the odds for him to win the U.S. Open on William Hill, and he's down to 18-1 right now.
18-1. And I'm sure he has a few other events on the schedule. If he plays well, that'll obviously dictate. Tiger's the kind of guy at the books, though, that he's going to get the most money.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
he's the household name.
But he's also going to be probably positioned at worse odds than he truly really is.
Oh, absolutely. There's no value in him for what he is as right now.
But his value is in matchup bets.
Yeah. Though he did pretty well on Saturday and Sunday to implement him going down in odds. So.
Right, no, of course he played well, but what I'm saying is that when he decides to put a string of events together, say he wins one of these next ones before the U.S. Open, which I believe is in about a month.
He might come off at the favorite.
He might be a favorite when it's probably not
likely
an accurate assessment of him. So, I mean, it's sitting with a situation like that. I mean, I don't want to say Tiger's back, but if he can put a string of events together and potentially win one here, I think it can only do anything. It can't do anything but help golf at this point.
Oh, absolutely. When he's playing the weekend, you got higher ratings for TV and revenue for the PGA Tour, so it's a win-win for them when he's in the weekend.
Yeah, most definitely. And we have a new number one after this weekend. Dustin Johnson had a great tournament, but he needed to finish ahead of all of the guys who were sitting behind him, and he did not finish ahead of Justin Thomas, who was taking over as number one, who's had a pretty scorching about 6 or 7 months of the season here. Does that mean anything for golf as far as popularity? Does Justin Thomas move the needle for anybody at that point? I think Dustin Johnson did because he was Gretzky's, son-in-law. He had the coke issue. I mean,
yeah,
he's been able in Tiger's absence to move the needle a little bit.
Yeah, I would say JT does slightly, but not even as much as a smidgen of DJs. Yeah, I'm looking at where the U.S. Open is this year. It's in Shinnecock Hills, which is
It's in New York, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Shinnecock Hills. I used to like that course when I was a kid just because it was Shinnecock.
Yeah.
So I was 5 years old.
And
you looking at premium cable over there, Spike?
No, for a topic that we're talking about later, I'm trying to get some numbers and some data. And since your fucking Wi-Fi doesn't work at all at this part of the studio, then I need to use my data plan on my phone, which I'm going to be, expensing to the...
You can write it off as a business expense.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to be expensing it to Forward Mile and to 12-ounce Sports and let them take care of the bill for me.
That's fine.
I thought he was setting up his college football lineup and was debating a couple punters.
His daily fantasy punter lineup?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, knowing that Forward Mile and 12-ounce are just flush with cash, they're more than happy to pay your data bill.
That's exactly what I expected you to say.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So, let's move off of golf because Spike is just chomping at the bit to talk golf. So we don't want to overuse Spike's talents. So we'll cut the golf off.
Don't make him use
we'll save him more of his golf knowledge for another episode. Spike, let's jump into hockey. And the conference finals have started. And I can say this, before tonight, it was a really weird situation because before the conference finals began, I sat to myself and said, what do I want to happen personally? Because two of my favorite hockey teams are in the conference finals, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I sat to myself, I said, do I want them to meet up? Do I prefer one gets in the Stanley Cup over another? Or what do I want? And after Game 2, The Lightning were down 0-2. Vegas was down 0-1. And I'm like, I might not have to make this decision at all anyways. It might be none of them. Tampa Bay is down 0-2, and they are down 0-2, like, not by overtime squeakers. They got crushed in both games.
Especially that game, too. I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no. And that's the thing. They looked worse in Game 2 than they did in Game 1, which is not the direction they wanted to go, especially with the series shifting back to Washington.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely right, because you're like, in the Boston series, they looked absolutely abysmal in Game 1, and then they flipped the switch 4 straight. We know the story. You're exactly right. Everybody after Game 1 who's a fan or watched the game said, okay, this is what happened last series with Boston. Let's not put too much stock in it. They're going to come back and play solid hockey. And you're right. That is absolutely not what happened.
Yeah, and that's sort of the thing. I watched most of that game. I didn't get to see the entirety of it. But I can't figure out what adjustments they were trying to make that failed. Because clearly if a team loses a game, they go out, they make adjustments, they change the way they play, and then they come back into the next game and hope for a different outcome. We saw that with the Knights, not just tonight in Game 2 of their series against Winnipeg, but in the last series against the Sharks. Anytime they lost the game, they adjusted, they made the changes that they needed, and then they came out and they won the next one. It just so happened that every time they lost one game, they came out and they won the next. Yeah. So it's a little like I couldn't figure out what Tampa Bay did differently that didn't work. It looked like they just did the same exact thing and continued to have failures, and I honestly don't know what oh my God, I'm blanking on the coach's name. Cooper. I don't know what Cooper's doing in Tampa. I just have no idea.
So, yeah, my initial thoughts were I applauded Cooper with his decision throughout the entire Bruins series to play his second line against the top line of Boston, leaving his first line, fresher, or his first line with the more supreme talent playing, inferior lines. Cooper's gone with that in the same in the Capitals series here, but it's not working at this point because that first line is taking full advantage of the Braden Point line to the point of where what do we have 7-2 last night?
6-2.
6-2 was the final score.
Yeah.
Ovechkin did whatever he wanted on the ice. Kuznetsov is amazing. I mean, if you don't watch that guy on a more focused level, he's probably one of their most valuable two-way players, along with a guy who's not even playing yet in the series, and that's Nick Backstrom. So if you're Tampa, what's a positive – I know it's tough. What's a positive you can take, or what's something you can look at this series so far and say, we can get back in it?
You put 2 in past Holtby.
Both games.
Yeah. That's a start, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, that's a start, but...
I mean, what does Cooper take out of this? Cooper and his staff, what do you say to this team? Because at this point, everything they've tried or everything they've thrown at the Capitals minus the 2 goals, because their power play was good.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, probably the first jumping off point is to try to draw penalties. However, they can do it. I mean, just getting that kind of advantage, even if it just means an odd man rush here and there, just trying to get those extra chances or the better chances than just putting bad pucks on net, because that's a lot of what I saw. It wasn't just that they weren't able to put pucks past Holtby. It was
they weren't even shooting.
Yeah, it was bad shots, or they weren't shooting at all, or they were bad angles, or Holtby wasn't giving up a rebound that they expected. Like, they really need to change everything about what they were doing.
They definitely need to shoot lower on the puck, for sure, towards the goal, instead of going up high, because Holtby's just going to scoop up those shots right into his chest and all that.
Let me ask you a question. I think I know the answer, but throughout the course of a season, a starting goaltender plays 45, 50 games?
Yeah, maybe a little more or less, depending on how much faith the head coach has in the backup.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just say on an average 50.
We'll say 50, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Vasilevsky played 65 games.
Yeah, that's too many.
Yeah.
Do you think that has something to do with the fact that he's given up 10 goals in 2 games at this point? I mean, do you think he's just tired? I mean, let's face it. Nobody's, antsy to trot out Louis Domingue in the rest of these playoffs. They're not itching. No one's itching to pull Vasilevsky. But at the same time, it's like, I wonder if fatigue is catching up to a guy who has never been the number one goalie for a full season until this year.
And that's certainly going to be part of it. Fatigue, not just fatigue because he played so many games, it's because he played so many games, especially down the stretch. He just got no time off. He has no time off now. The fact that they were able to beat the Bruins in 5 was probably a blessing because he actually got to sit for a few days.
Almost a week.
Yeah, which definitely had to have helped him at least a little bit. But and that the flip side of that too is I said the same thing going into the Winnipeg series. I thought Hellebuck had been used a little too much, especially down the stretch. But that hasn't seemed to hurt Winnipeg nearly as much as it's hurting Tampa Bay. I am hesitant to say that even with the amount that Vasilevsky's been used, that you can put the entirety of these losses on him.
Right. No, I understand. And you don't know if he's a rest guy or a rhythm guy.
Right.
He doesn't look like either at this point.
No, but their defense isn't playing great. Hedman's fine, but everybody else on Tampa's defense, to me, hasn't looked spectacular.
Yeah, that definitely hurts.
Yeah, they're leaving.
Sergachev looks like a rookie.
Yeah, they're leaving Ovechkin open, which you can never do.
Yeah, that's the first thing you shut down.
Yeah, and it's just
don't let him shoot a one time.
Yeah, and then the flip side of that is Ovechkin's probably the worst defensive forward in the league. He's gotten better over the last couple of years, but he's still fucking atrocious. And you can't score when he's on the ice.
Yeah.
You have to be able to take advantage of those kinds of things, and Tampa Bay is doing none of it. They haven't played any kind of game that makes me think that they're serious contenders at this point. They have to change my mind. Now, I should also say that I counted Tampa Bay completely out after Game 1 against Boston. So I've been wrong about them before this year. I don't actually mind Tampa Bay. I probably should hate them more, especially with the fact the fucking crybabies on Tampa Bay sports talk radio that got the Boston ads pulled during the playoffs in 2011. They still gets under my skin, but I don't hate the Lightning as much as I probably should. But I still would rather see Washington advance just for the sake that it means whoever comes out of the West gets home ice advantage in the Stanley Cup Finals.
That is very true. Actually, I didn't think about that. Obviously, the must-win Game 3 for Tampa, because if they go down 3-0, what are we talking? 2 teams in the course of history?
3, but
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because
who's the third one? I have Philly and I have the LA Kings.
The Islanders did it in the 70s.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But there's what the fuck was I going to say? It's not just the fact that they're going down 0-3. It's that they're going down 0-3 and Game 4 is in Washington.
Still in Washington, yeah.
So, that's just a death knell for them.
But the question is if they win Game 3, and I know this sounds, I don't want it to sound too obvious, but if they win Game 3, is Game 4 as well a must-win?
Not as much.
Can they go down 3-1 with 2 out of the next 3 at home and still come back in the series?
You certainly, if you're a Tampa fan, you have to feel better about that, of course, but yeah.
Especially if you have tickets to Game 5.
Yeah. But, to me, I know Tony said that it's not as much a must-win. I think it is, because by Game 4, you're expected to be 2-2.
At worst,
so,
if you're the home field.
Right. So if you go into Game 5, you're 2-2, and now you have home ice advantage again. It's not the worst case scenario.
It's a fresh series, pretty much.
Right. But if you're down 3-1, then you can't afford another mistake. And with Game 6 being in Washington, that's just I would not like my chances there at all.
So during the game, I was watching the Tampa Bay game, the Tampa Bay Washington game, and obviously it got out of hand. Start of the third, it was 4-2, and it just got out of hand from there. Tampa Bay fans were leaving early, and that always brings up a conversation between people who claim to be diehards and people who, whatever you want to call yourself as far as a fan. In this situation, what are your thoughts on a fan or you leaving early in a game that clearly looks out of hand? You're the kind of guy who stays to the end no matter if it's 15-0.
I always try and stay to the end of any game, even if it's a blowout, either side. unless if I've got something going on that I have to be at or something.
And so your reasoning for staying is...
Or maybe if it's like during a baseball game, if there's a huge rain delay and it doesn't seem to end in sight or something.
Okay. And you liken that to the reason of because you're just so diehard into a game or into a sport, or you're just... I mean, what's your theory? What's your theoretical process on that?
I mean, you're there for the experience, you paid for the ticket, you might as well sit there and enjoy it or get something out of it, I guess. Whether it be positive or negative for either side that you're on.
Yeah, one in my recent memory was, and I know Spike knows this too, is that we were both at the Vegas Golden Knights game against the New Jersey Devils, and New Jersey beat Vegas 8-2.
Yeah.
And I know Desiree, the producer, and I stayed the entire time, but obviously there was a mass exodus of people who left. Did you leave that game?
Oh no, I stuck around.
So so for you to stick around, what is your reasoning? Do you stick around an entire game no matter what?
More or less. The only reason I wouldn't is at a baseball game, not necessarily because of a long rain delay, but more like if it's just too hot, like if I get too sweaty and uncomfortable and I don't want to sit there anymore and it's a blowout on either end, then I'm going to leave. But for a hockey game where the temperature's fine, like I like watching hockey. Even if my team's getting completely fucking schmucked, I want to stay there and watch the game.
Exciting, fast-paced game.
Yeah.
See, and I don't disagree with that because I fall on both sides of your explanations because, yes, I am the same way. When Anthony explained, you paid for a ticket. That's exactly. I paid for a ticket, and that ticket encompasses a 60-minute game in football or hockey or 9-inning game in baseball, etc. And at the same time, I like to watch my team no matter what the outcome may be for them. But at the same time, I personally don't have an issue when I know, okay, when New Jersey went up 6-1 or 6-2 or whatever it was, I'm like, I know this game's out of hand, and people were leaving. I don't have an issue personally with it, but it seems like I've seen on Facebook groups, message boards, blah, 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 people bad-mouthing others for leaving games early for whatever their rhyme or reason, whether it's a blowout or whether the game went to extra innings and it's a Tuesday night and you got to get the kid to bed because you got school and work in the morning. Like, whatever your reasoning is, that's your personal decision. Do you sit there and frown or poo-poo on other people if they decide to leave a game?
No, I mean, I do if the game's close. Like the Knights-Buffalo game early in the season, where I think it was 4-1 or 4-2 Vegas, fairly late in the third, and then people started leaving, and then Buffalo came back and tied it up. Game ended up going to overtime.
I remember that, yeah.
When there were people that were leaving, I was making a point to call them fair-weather fans as they were walking out. I got flipped off a couple of times for it, but yeah, it is what it is. But no, I mean, sometimes like shit happens. Like, if somebody has stuff to do, which I guess I didn't consider as this was going on, I'm still going to be an asshole. But I didn't consider.
I'm not judging you based on however you act on it. I'm just asking
your opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say the last time I left a game early, I won't even tell you the team names because they're ridiculous. But a buddy of mine had to catch the last train that was leaving the station. It was a baseball game. It was already in extra innings. And not only was it in extra innings, but the score was like 12-12 at that point.
Jeez.
It was ridiculous. And he had to catch the last train that was leaving because he was the game was in Tokyo, and he had to catch the bullet train to Osaka, where he was staying at the time. Yeah. All right. It was the Hiroshima Carp visiting the Tokyo Swallows.
There you go.
Yeah. By the way, still the loudest sporting event I've ever been to.
Really?
Oh, they are fucking crazy. If you ever want to go to just the craziest, coolest...
Do they have the huge horns like they do in South Africa?
No, they don't have the vuvuzelas, but they all have like the inflatable noise sticks that you bang together. And not only that, but like on the third base side, it was all visiting fans. On the first base side, it was all home fans.
Oh, that's pretty sweet, man.
Any time either team scored, they had chants, they had songs, they were standing up. They didn't do the wave. We tried to get that going.
They say a lot of foreign sports are way more intense than our sports.
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
especially when it comes to soccer, aka football.
Yeah,
that game was a lot of fun. I'd say the worst part about that game is the fact that the seats were made for Asian butts instead of Western butts.
Spike's butts.
Yeah, I was a little uncomfortable.
2 seats, please.
A little tight.
Yeah, but the other cool thing was that the people that were like selling beer that were walking up and down the aisle, It was actually like a keg of beer strapped to a girl's back.
Oh, and he
and
just
she,
taps it.
yeah, and she would tap it and pour you a drink right there.
That's pretty awesome.
That actually is pretty cool. I mean,
It probably saves them a whole bunch of money. That
Yeah,
way, too.
with no last call, by the way. They didn't stop serving after the 7th.
That's,
a lot of
that's
people.
pretty awesome, yeah.
A lot of people don't drive, correct?
Yeah, no, they all take
A lot
the
of public transportation,
especially in Tokyo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bullet train.
because I remember in Yankee Stadium, there's no last call either.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because the majority of people are public transportation.
Yeah.
Take subway
I mean,
bus.
that doesn't excuse the fact that they probably should cut some of them off. But I remember we went to a few games in Yankee Stadium, and there's no last call there either. I don't know about Shea. I don't think I think about it now. But I experienced a similar situation in the Kings Knights series. It's that game 2 that went to triple overtime or double overtime.
Double
We
overtime.
were at the
Yeah.
game actually.
Yes.
Token Tony and I were at the game, and I work at midnight. And that game just kept going and going and going. And I'm like, for the love, and I even as a Knights fan, I was like, I really want the Knights to win, but for the love of God, someone score.
Yeah. I was actually hoping for a longer game. I was hoping for triple overtime.
I was too, actually, and I posted this on Reddit because this is the first year that my wife has watched hockey. Like, she's never really been into it. She knew that I had been into it for years. And, this is the first time she's really gotten into it from the ground floor, watched everything. So when it went into double overtime, I'm like, I want 5 overtimes just to fuck with you so you know what the rest of us have been going through.
Yeah.
When the Knights finally scored, I'm like, do you enjoy playoff hockey yet? And she just grabbed me by the shirt and screamed, how do you do this every year?
That's the beauty of it, I mean, that's the beauty of I would assume playoff hockey. I mean, football, yes, and you can see a score coming, but hockey at any given moment, especially in that specific game, a Neil turnover, you think, okay, he's just going to dump it in. No, he takes it, holla, and you just never know when that is going to come.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember growing up as a Detroit fan. I'm sure you are pretty familiar with this, being on the East Coast and being a Boston fan yourself. Playing a West Coast team in playoffs, and game goes to overtime, and
It's like 2 in the morning.
2 in the morning or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Especially on school nights or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and remember, too, that Detroit was in the Western Conference
Yes.
for a number of years.
That switch happened 5 or so years ago or something.
Yeah.
So
So
most of your growing up watching hockey, you were watching, 7 p.m. starts?
More like 10.
Or that's what I meant. Yeah, 7 p.m. here, but
Yeah.
10 p.m. starts, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes 10:30 if it was like San Jose or something. Usually they started at 7:30 local.
yeah, brutal.
Yeah. I stayed up for most of the games though.
There you go.
So anyways, that was my curiosity. I was thinking about that for a couple of days, after the Lightning game. I guess that was just yesterday. Just watching the fans leave and just watching people, or listening to people, badmouth them or, and I even thought, I was like, well, you know what? If the team doesn't show up for the game, why does the fan have to stay for the game?
Yeah.
Because clearly the Lightning did not get off the bus.
No.
So let's move over in the Western Conference and talk about the Knights. They won today, right before we started recording. And what was the final score? 3-1?
3-1 was the final.
And like you were talking about with Tampa doing exactly the same thing as they did last time, it seemed to me Vegas, I wouldn't say did a complete 180 because, in my opinion, take out the first 8 minutes of Game 1, I think Vegas played better hockey in Game 1. So I think they stayed the course, but Fleury was a lot better.
Fleury was a lot better. The defense in front of him, for the most part, was a lot better. They actually changed some of the defensive pairings, especially late. They put McNabb with Engeland, and they put
Theodore,
thank you, with the other one, Schmidt. Yeah,
With the
Jesus
other one.
Christ.
with your dog. They put
Yeah.
Theodore with your dog.
I'm also staring at a signed picture of Schmidt and another jersey with number 88 on it.
And you still couldn't put
I
Schmidt.
still couldn't fucking remember
You
Schmidt's
have a
name.
dog named Schmidt.
Oh my god.
Your wife's favorite player's named Schmidt.
Yeah.
She has the Nate
Who the Schmidt are
Schmidt.
you?
Don't know how many more indicators you could have had for that.
She has
Who
the Nate.
Schmidt are you?
She has the Schmidt game day poster like on our fridge, and I'm in our fridge about 13 times a day.
Yeah, we know. So let me ask you a question. When you let the dog out in the morning, do you tell him, hey, go take a Schmidt?
No, but I think he is getting confused because we say sit and then Schmidt, so it's like sit Schmidt,
No.
sit Schmidt, and
He's
he,
like-
he kind of looks at us funny. Yeah.
Just like a double take.
So, first thoughts. We didn't do a podcast since game 1. The third goal.
What, the Marchessault goal?
No. Game 1. The kick in.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
See, when I saw it, I thought they were waving it off for it being kicked.
Right.
I thought they were
And then they were
goalie interference.
Well, they did.
Yeah.
They did, and they reviewed it for goalie interference. But as I'm watching it, I'm like, no, it's not interference. He kicked the puck in.
Yeah.
And they're like,
I
yeah,
actually
it's a
thought
good
it was
goal.
interference as well as being kicked.
See, I didn't think it was interference necessarily, but I thought it was a kick.
So because
I thought
he ran into the stick of Fleury.
yes, but
The argument that people are making is that Carpenter was the one pushing, and I don't remember the offensive player at the time, that ended up kicking the puck in the net. But then the flip side of that is you called goalie interference on Marchessault in the Sharks series when he scored that overtime, or what should have been an overtime winner, and that was called goalie interference while he was being pushed by a defender. So fucking make up your mind. This is the problem that people have with goalie interference in the NHL, is that there's just no consistency on it whatsoever.
And the thing is, it gets overturned so much. I mean, they waved it no goal on the ice in real time, and what Carpenter did. If they were calling it goalie interference, again, I thought it was a goal, but I thought it was kicked. But if they're calling it goalie interference, if they're waving it off due to goalie interference, what Carpenter did, in my opinion, was not enough to overturn that call because they called it no goal.
No, and I agree. And then the flip side of that is once they called it a good goal because of no goalie interference, I actually wondered if Gallant would challenge for the kick-in. Because the kick looked obvious, but only from the overhead camera.
Right, yeah.
From all the other camera angles, you couldn't really see. But on the overhead,
you could see from one sideways angle that a slight kicking motion was being made. But
right, his skate turns right, and he kind of goes after the puck with his skate, which I understand that's not kicking it toward the goal, but that's guiding it with your foot, in my opinion.
But the best angle, like you said, was the overhead one.
It usually is for all of those calls.
Yeah.
Now, and again, I go back to an argument or a point that I made on a previous podcast where I said, if it goes in the net, just fucking count it as going in the net, unless there's a goalie interference and unless he put it in with his hands.
Yes.
But if he's kicking it in like that, I don't have a problem with it going in. But if it's against the rules to kick the puck in the net, then
it's against the rules.
That should be against the rules. And then if they call it a goal, then challenge for kicking it in the net. And I was
well, if they reviewed it for goalie interference. Is Gallant at that point able to challenge it?
Yes.
Yeah.
He can challenge the kick.
He can challenge the kick.
Or he can even challenge the goalie interference, too. He can challenge, and they go look at it again, which it's a stupid move to challenge
something that they overturned.
Something they've already overturned.
Right. Yeah, and especially because it's not the refs in the rink looking at the plays anymore. It's Toronto, yeah.
Now, the thing I kind of look at here, and when you're talking about, a goal by any means necessary, they really need to make a decision because talking about a kicking motion, kicking it in, they want more offense. The NHL does. They've always pined for more offense, and the rules they've changed have shown that. So decide what you want to do because I thought that was a kick in. The goalie interference has changed and unchanged goals.
Yeah.
I just don't see an end in sight for this because, like you said, there's no clear-cut definition, but over the course of this 3 months offseason, do you think they're just going to find one? They're going to find a decision,
I think overall the best decision would be allow kicking and goalie interference. Say anybody's in the crease.
Do you think allowing kicking is safe though? Some guys are kicking it like soccer balls. They're throwing their blades up in the air. I don't feel like that's safe.
No, that's a fair point.
I'm just throwing counterproductive, playing devil's advocate at this point.
I wasn't considering that, but
like you was it against San Jose? I know it was a 7-0 blowout, but didn't in the game one like Neil, one of them hit off his shoulder and went in. They called it no goal.
Oh no, that was
off his wrist or something like that.
He kind of did like a cross-checking motion on the puck. Puck went off his stick and into the net, and then they waved it off, saying no goal because it hit his hand.
But it really theoretically hit the stick, right? Theoretically, it literally hit the stick.
It hit the stick. And he was even pointing to the stick, showing the scuff on the stick, saying the puck hit the stick. But when they reviewed it, it's a black puck on a black stick, and Neil had black gloves. So they couldn't.
No shot,
they couldn't make a distinction at that point on a review.
He said distinction.
This kid's 5.
I don't.
He's 5 years old.
Yeah. I gotta fucking walk through that when I leave here, too.
Yeah.
Fingering crayon.
I don't know if the microphone picked that one up. Anyways, you were saying.
I forget.
Something about distinction.
So on the Neal goal, they couldn't distinguish where the puck actually hit because of black puck, black stick, black gloves. They couldn't figure it out, so they had to stay with the call on the ice of no goal. But it's just one of those things, especially with the Winnipeg goal, that Game 3 goal, where they said no goal on the ice. Bettman at the All-Star break told referees, if you call it a goal or you call it no goal, don't go crazy in the replay. Just take a look at it. If there's something really obvious, then change the call. Otherwise, the call has to stand.
Whatever you make it to begin with.
Right, and that has not been the case at all in any of these reviews. They're calling it, they're going in depth. They're really nitpicking on everything, and it's just, it's slowing the game down. It's driving people crazy.
I would agree with all of that, what you just said. Let's take a look at the next games in the series. We talked about Tampa Bay and Washington. Tampa Bay is down 0-2, heading to D.C. Washington opened up as a 130 favorite, down to 120 as a consensus right now. Tampa Bay even money.
Really?
Tampa Bay, yeah, even money at this point.
Jesus, the Knights were plus 115 today.
Yeah. Well, this is a Vegas. In spots, it's a consensus across the board of Vegas sports books.
Spots are 105.
Some spots are 105. Some spots, like Mirage, have Tampa Bay at minus 105 at this point. So it's a consensus of all the lines.
What's the total on that game? 5.5?
6. So I'll start with you, Token Tony. And what are your thoughts initially on Game 3?
For the value, Washington, absolutely.
Minus 120?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You think there's nothing to be gained by taking Tampa at even money at this point? You don't think this must win? Because Tampa Bay's shown in Boston they could win 2 games in a hostile environment against a team.
Yes. I think Washington has the momentum. Tampa Bay's lacking the defense in front of the net.
Which is crazy, by the way, because they traded for one of the best defenders who was available at the time, not named Erik Karlsson, and Ryan McDonough. And their defense, over the course of the games I've watched, might have gotten worse.
I think this remains a lot closer of a game than the last game. I say Washington wins, doesn't cover the puck line 4-3, whether it's in regulation or overtime.
So, like, caps in the over?
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you on the caps, but I'm thinking under. I think if anything for either team is going to step up, it'll be defense. And at this point, I still like Washington, but I think more like a 2-1, 3-1 type game is more likely.
Fair enough. I guess I'm going to stick to my home team here, and I'll take the even money with Tampa Bay just to be different, and more so that it's a prayer bet that they don't actually go down 0-3.
If you can find a place that does Tampa like plus 110, then I'd take that over even or minus 105. Like I'm not.
What's William Hill pulling up right now? Get the crack research staff on that while you're.
Yeah, I'm not willing to take Tampa for anything less than plus money.
And not even money. You feel like the 10-cent juice is not worth is worth firing on the other side.
Yeah,
I mean, all things point to Washington. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they're on the hot streak. They can't be stopped right now. It seems like Ovi's destiny to make a cup at this point.
They're going home. Oshie's going to be pissed because of that fucking incredibly bullshit high sticking call against him.
Yeah, the puck hit Hedman in the face. I mean, like I said, I'm a Tampa Bay guy, and I was like,
what a gift.
At first I thought,
what a gift.
Well, let's talk about that, because we are we are reviewing goalie interference, we're reviewing, kicks and etc. You got the line for the Tampa Bay?
Yeah, go ahead, finish what you're saying then.
Why are we not reviewing delay of game, like when you flick the puck out? And why are we not reviewing these high stakes? Why isn't there a guy in the box, not Toronto, but just a guy right now,
like between the glass,
or even up in the press, who can just review a tape real quick for 5 seconds and get the call right? I understand we don't want to look at everything.
Have somebody in the press box have like a red or a green light.
Well, NBC Sports can show it to me in 3 seconds. I don't think that's delaying the game too much.
No, but I think it's...
you can be in contact with the head official?
Yeah, once you start doing that for everything, then you just really get no flow to the game. And that's one of the strengths of hockey, is the fact that the game can go on and have these long periods of continuous play where you don't get a whistle and you don't get the stoppages. Even if it means a missed call.
Right, in that situation, it did stop because Caps touched the puck, and then I got an immediate replay on my broadcast,
Right.
and realized, oh shoot, we're going to get away with one here.
I think. I don't know. I mean,
Especially keeping a guy out of the box. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll take a power play because it led to a goal.
right.
But keeping a guy out of the box, I prefer the integrity of the game than being a Tampa Bay fan. Oh, we get a cheap power play. I get it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna take it away if that decides a game 7 or a cup or whatever.
Yeah. No, I think I'm more likely to agree with you there on keeping a guy out of a box on a blown call rather than a missed call, putting a guy in the box, because then you have to worry. You get like the Nate Schmidt goal that was missed in Game 6.
That they eventually got.
But they had to blow the horn, they had to reset the clock, they had to reset the play, they had to do...
But that's a goal. I mean,
Right.
that's more monumentous than a penalty.
Right, but I mean, if you're talking about reviewing things like that, then, I don't want the game to start slowing down for every little mishap that may or may not have been missed.
And that's fair. But what I mean is, in a situation like that, I'm speaking specifically about that one, the puck/stick went to Hedman's face. Caps touched it up, and
Right.
What'd you say, Oshie? It was Oshie.
Oshie, yeah.
Oshie went to the box. Obviously, he was furious. During that time, whoever this reviewer is can check it, buzz down, say, hey, no, it was the puck.
Yeah, no, and
I don't know if that disrupts flow enough. I mean,
no, and
at all.
that wouldn't, and that I feel better about. It's when there's a missed call, the game goes on, people are playing, and then you stop to say, oh, by the way, we missed a call 30 seconds ago or 20 seconds ago. Then that's kind of what bugs me.
I understand missing a call, because if you missed a high stick, and then you're right, they play 2 more minutes, and then you go back and you put the guy in the box retroactive to the current clock.
Right.
You're not going to go
It's
back
kind of like that situation. This happened, I want to say, about 10 years ago, where a team looked like they scored, they continued on. The other team looked like they scored, they continued on. Then the other team put it in the net, and 2 minutes went by. They reviewed the second goal of that. That was a good goal. And then they reviewed the first goal, and that was a good goal.
So what did they do?
The first original goal counted, and they put the time back on the clock. I want to say it was like the Sharks and the Devils.
The original goal counted. The second and third goals did not count.
True, yeah.
Wow. That's...
Yeah, because it went off
I'd
like
feel
the
pretty shitty if I was the
back
second.
bar of the net.
No, I understand that, but I mean, you didn't stop play, and I scored 2. I feel like you should give us each a goal at that point. I don't know. That's a weird one to me.
Yeah.
Lightning, actually, according to the Superbook right now, the series price, they're only plus 280. Considering they lost the first 2 at home, I felt like the number should be a little higher than that.
Yeah, I would say like 7-2 would be right around the right wheelhouse, plus 350.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking actually after the game to say at the Superbook and say, maybe I'll take if it's in the 4s or 5s, because they're at a huge disadvantage.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they have 3 games in Washington and 2 games in Tampa, and they've got to win 4 of those games.
Yeah.
So to me, they're at a disadvantage that to me screams a lot higher than plus 280.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I didn't like that exact. But I did look here. What did you find for William Hill?
William Hill for the game, it's minus 120 for the Caps, minus 115 for the over. Capitals puck line is plus 240. Reverse puck line for the Lightning is plus 280.
So you didn't give me the only one I was looking for.
Yeah, I gave you everything.
So what is Lightning?
Even money.
Oh, he did? Did he say that?
No, he didn't.
Well, I said Capitals minus 120, but it's 20 on William Hill. So I thought it was pretty obvious.
What do you mean it's 20 on William Hill?
For the spread, usually, unless if it's a high spread.
He's saying that if one team is minus 120, then the other team is even.
Yes.
Is that a pretty common thing? I don't think that's... Are you sure? That
for
sounds
hockey.
fake.
No, for hockey it is.
So every team's 20 cents worse, is what you're saying?
For hockey, unless if it's a huge money line.
So if the Lightning were... Or if the Caps were minus 140, you'd say they're
Plus
120?
That's usually how it is on
I have to keep an eye on that.
That's news to me. So.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
For hockey, it is like that. For baseball, I believe it's a 10-point difference.
Okay.
Really?
Unless if it's high money line.
Interesting.
So
If it's
well,
like,
when do they stop? When does that threshold go away?
I believe
180?
I believe for baseball it's right around 170. I believe for hockey it's right around 200.
So If a hockey team is 190, the other team's going to be plus 180. That is, I don't
No, plus 170.
or plus 170.
That's usually how it is.
Huh. All right, I have to look at the baseball here. What do we got? Pregame for tomorrow. Shit, he might be right. Well,
Yeah.
he's most. You're effectively correct. I won't.
I mean, if it's high money line,
It's give or
gonna
take.
vary,
Like Dodgers tomorrow are 175 and Marlins are 160.
Oh, okay.
So that's 15. But I never noticed that. There's a 10 to 15 cent juice.
yeah.
Wow.
I never noticed that.
With hockey, it's
Son
usually
of a
20,
bitch. Who says you can't learn anything from podcasts?
There you go.
let alone tone.
Oh, I can't make the distinction. So, well, right now, for Spike, other than some Tums, the Lightning are going off on the Superbook at plus 105. Is that enough? That's not enough juice for you?
Not really. I'd feel okay hitting that.
Really?
And
'Cause you don't sound okay.
Well, he just released himself, so.
Yeah.
I'd feel better about that if it was at like a 115, but 105.
It's just to me in this situation, it can't be a value play because you're talking about a nickel. If you like Washington, you're willing to pay the juice, but if Tampa Bay gets up to another nickel, meaning $1.10, you would fire. I'm just curious. I'm asking because I like Tampa, and the only way I could see betting against Tampa is if Washington got to plus money. But I don't know if 5 cents going the other way is enough for me. If you like Washington to jump off the ship,
I would say 10 would more do it for me as well.
Yeah, no, and I think you've talked me into it. I'm going to stick with Washington.
No, I'm not trying to talk you one way or the other. I'm just trying to get a gauge on it. Like, if I liked Washington and Tampa Bay's even money, Tampa Bay being plus 110 doesn't make me like Washington any less. That's my theory.
No,
There are some bets that I feel there's better value on the other side. It's mostly baseball and mostly football. But I was just curious at your thought process on that.
No, and I hear what you're saying. I just, for these types of games where the teams, especially in a conference final type or a Stanley Cup final, where the teams are typically even, when one team goes plus money, then I'm going to look at that team a lot harder than I would. And if I think that the team has a relative chance of winning, like I took the Knights today, plus 115. So, and that wasn't like, I'm so confident that the Knights are going to win. It's, I think they're good enough.
Kind of.
Yeah, the price is good. This is where I want to be. I wouldn't have taken the Knights minus money.
No.
For goddamn sure.
No, that's a bad value bet.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is the Knights plus 115, did you feel there was... You're saying you felt more value there than betting the other side, as well as the fact that you believed they were going to win.
Yeah.
Or more so than you believed they were going to win.
Right, and, I don't know that I would have put the money on it if the Knights were even. I might have, but I wouldn't have felt great about it.
Yeah.
But I also felt the Knights are a lot closer to beating Winnipeg than I think Tampa is to beating Washington.
Okay, fair enough. And I liked the Knights in this game specifically to win because I thought, like I said, other than the first 8 minutes of hockey, I think they played just as good, if not better. And if Fleury tightened up a few, I mean, the deflection off the Buffalo shot, I think that was the fourth goal, and nothing he can do about it. And again, the kicked goal, but the the sliding across, you guys got to know about Line. I mean, he's been doing it all year.
Yeah.
And I mean, not that it makes it any easier, and I'm not trying to poo-poo on Fleury, but you saw Riley Smith in that game on that same power play on the Bufflin goal. Riley scooted over to Line and Bufflin threw it right on the net. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
So
doomed if you do, doomed if you don't.
right, and the flip side of this too, for me, is the Jets have scored 5 goals this series, and Derek Engelland has been on the ice for all 5. I fucking hate Derek Engelland.
Yeah, I know.
I do not understand why he keeps getting ice time. I don't. I would put, I don't even know if Jason Garrison is eligible to be on the roster, but I'd have him out there before Engelland. I'd put, basically, any of the defenders on the Knights roster except for Zach Whitecloud.
On the junior Knights roster.
Yeah, I would put out there before I put Englund. He is
Spike,
way too slow.
You got to slow down. You can't talk about your future captain like that.
Oh, God, fuck off. Oh, it makes me sick because I think you're right.
Put Subban on the ice.
Put Subban on defense.
I'd give Subban a defender's stick.
Subban has 6 defensemen. Hey, did you see that video the other day of Fleury shooting at practice?
No.
He was he had a regular he had a skater stick and he was shooting on Subban.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see that one.
I don't know if he got any in. They were shooting from far away, but they were like the caption was like Flower can score too or something like that. I don't know what it said, but
Does he have a goal ever?
I doubt it.
Oh, I don't know.
think so.
It's so rare, especially nowadays.
I think there's only like 8 goalies who scored, right?
Right.
For some, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I know
it's,
Brodeur has a goal.
it's minimal, and
Brodeur has 2 actually.
Does he have 2?
I was going to say, I think it's minimal, and like Brodeur and Ron Hextall have half of the ones ever scored.
I think Mike Smith might have a goal too.
Yeah, so I mean, look them up because they're just so rare, and especially now because the game has changed. Because back in the day, it used to be
You just cover the puck when it's an odd man.
Well,
it's 6-on-5. Or
not only that, but a goalie like if the other net is empty, a goalie could whip it down the ice. If it was icing, you didn't used to have the rule where the defensive team has to keep those same skaters out on the ice.
When did that change?
After the strike, for sure. After
The 04 strike?
yeah.
Really?
And it may have even been earlier than that. The problem was this was the reason that the Devils were so successful in the 90s is that they would get like a 1 or 2 goal lead and then just ice the puck for the rest of the game. And they could do that because they could switch out players. Once they instituted that you had to keep those same players out on the ice, then teams started slowing down. So goalies back in the 80s and early 90s could get away with just launching the puck down the ice. But now they tell skaters to skate up to center ice and just dump it in, or do that light loft like that almost hits
the rodeo. I call it the rodeo pass.
Yeah, that almost hits the scoreboard up top.
Or the ultimate saucer.
Yeah, something to avoid the icing because they don't want to keep those skaters out there. So that's why goalies aren't taking shots anymore.
He is correct about the icing rule. I watched hockey prior to 04 or whatever that. I think it was 05. I think they actually changed it during the lockout as a negotiation.
I kind of thought that I couldn't remember exactly, but that sounded right. So,
But no, you're absolutely correct. Kudos to you.
There's been 11 goalies that have scored, and there's been 14 total goals by goalies.
Brodeur won, right?
Brodeur's got 3.
Brodeur's got 3.
Yes, I know he had.
So everybody else has 1.
so yeah,
Billy Smith was the first one by the Islanders in the 79-80 season.
okay.
Hextall was.
I knew Hextall had one.
He actually has 2.
I thought you said 11 goalies have 14 goals.
Yes, Brodeur has 3.
Oh yeah, so that
Okay,
was
so one other guy would have 2. Okay,
Yeah.
that'd be Hextall. Yeah.
Osgood's
Chris Osgood.
Brodeur, of course. Damian Rhodes
no, that
played for the Senators late 90s. Jose Theodore.
Jose Theodore.
Yeah.
Theodore.
Nabokov was another.
Evgeny Nabokov.
Okay.
Former Lightning.
Mika Noranen played for the Sabres 03-04.
Name doesn't ring a bell.
Chris Mason played for the Preds.
Mace.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
Mason.
Cam Ward.
Okay.
For the
I remember
Hurricanes?
that one. Yep.
Okay.
And then the most recent was Mike Smith.
Mike Smith.
there you go.
I thought he had a goal.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's pretty impressive, our knowledge of useless things.
Yeah.
Although icing is not useless anymore. I mean, it is useless to know now because it'll
mean offsides?
probably never get you. Oh, yeah. Did you ever tell him that story?
Oh, no.
One guy we sat behind us in the game didn't know the difference between offsides and icing.
This was playoff game number 2 this year.
It was the Kings game. It was the Kings game, and every time they would throw the puck down, he goes, "It's offsides!" We're like, "That's not offsides.
That's icing.
Oh my
That's
god.
icing."
You know, and
And then when they're offsides, icing!
He did. I don't know if he was fucking around like trolling, but
It
it
sounded like he was being
he
serious.
seemed legit.
there was a guy, I ended up selling one of my tickets. It was, I don't even remember who the Knights were playing, but it was a night where my wife had to work late, so I ended up selling the ticket on the internet. But I went to the game, so I had to sit next to this guy, and he was a Predators fan. And he was talking about how when the Predators came into the league, that people in Nashville were so new to hockey that they couldn't just say, oh, this is an icing. They would actually have to, on the Jumbotron, explain what icing meant. and they did
Give
that.
the definition on the
That's actually
Jumbotron.
awesome.
Right, and they did that for the first couple of seasons, which is great. Like,
I think that's good.
yeah, it's not like it's a great idea, but people when Vegas came into the league, they expected the same thing, and when they didn't get it, everybody was like, "Oh, nobody in Vegas knows the rules." It's like, motherfucker, we were all watching the Wranglers and the Thunder back in the day.
Yeah.
But you know what? And you can pick and choose that out of any team's fan base. Everybody's like, "Oh, well, that fan base is a bunch of assholes." No, it's probably a select 90% of them. But I see on the forums and the message boards, people just, one person asks a question because they're probably trying to gain, information about the game, and then 3 or 4 guys are like, "How do you not know that? It's so basic." Well, at some point you didn't know hockey either, or you
Right.
didn't know XYZ about,
Well, and there's like little quirks in some of the rules that people may not know. Like I had a question the other day, and I still haven't gotten a serious answer about it. It's if a team,
this is about performance-based funding.
if a team, no, it's not. Oh God. By the way, I'll do this quick little caveat. So I was taking a class on education policy. My final paper was about performance-based funding at community colleges and whether or not they help. It was due Monday at noon. Sunday, I'm writing Sunday at midnight, Monday, like 12:30 into Monday morning. Hard drive died.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I had been backing up and autosaving to that hard drive.
He gone?
Yeah, it gone.
Oh, no.
I had to call in sick to work the next day. I stayed up till 5 a.m. rewriting it on my laptop, woke up at like 7, got back up, and I got it in half an hour late, didn't get penalized.
There you go.
So that was good. But if a team puts too many skaters on the ice that doesn't get called, and then that team ices the puck, who gets off the ice for that team? If they put like 6 skaters on plus a goalie, too many men doesn't get called, but the puck gets iced, they have to keep the same crew out there. Who goes back?
You don't have an answer for this?
I have not gotten a serious answer to this yet.
I mean, I don't know how serious it is, but my answer would be the last guy on the ice.
And that makes sense, but I don't know if that's an official rule or just like the refs would then tell him to get back on the bench.
Tweet at Pierre LeBrun and Frege and all those
Oh,
guys.
I might. Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea.
Because to be honest with you, if they have to go back, they don't review it. It's all based on
Right.
It's all based on the officials on the ice. So, one of the headlinesmen, comes over and says, "No, this guy are on," and the referee says, "No, this guy are on." Then we come to an interesting
Debacle.
Yeah.
The question. See, in a situation like that, would you enhance replay or review and conduct a penalty there, or give a penalty there?
See, I don't think I would.
They clearly committed an infraction.
Yeah, but there's infractions that happen all the time that don't get called, so.
Well, it's kind of like going to this past week with the Mets, with them batting
out of order, and all 3 guys were out.
The rule states if it's caught before the next pitch is thrown, then it's an out. If it's caught while the player's at bat, they correct it, and the player that was supposed to be batting is replaced with the same count.
Right.
If it's caught after one pitch is thrown, then it's considered no violation.
Wait, what happened? It's hockey season, so I don't pay attention to anything else.
Well, last week Mets were playing. I believe it was
They batted out of order in the
Reds.
first inning.
The Reds, yeah.
That's the best part.
Well, they were putting the Reds on top of it.
Well,
too.
I mean, I understand. Okay, shit happens. I've never seen it in the major leagues. By the way, I've seen it. When I played Little League baseball. But you batted out of order in the first inning.
it's actually
you
not,
haven't even gone
it's
through
not the
the
first time either.
In Mets or in baseball. I'm sure it's happened
Baseball
in
history. The most recent was 2016, July 4th.
But see, according to their lineup, Cabrera, who batted out of order, was like 2 places down.
Yeah, he was supposed to be fourth.
He was supposed to be fourth,
and he
batted second.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't even 1 place out of the... So what happened was he batted second, doubled, I think.
Double, yeah. It was a ground rule double.
Yeah, so he batted second and doubled, and then the next guy came up and struck out. And then, what's-his-face, the Cincinnati interim coach figured it out. As Drubel was out at second, and Bruce now was out because Bruce was supposed to bat third when whoever the third guy was. So all three guys were called out at one point.
Wow.
No, what happened? Somebody got out first. I think that was the right person that was supposed to bat.
The first guy.
Whoever was supposed to be second did not bat in the right order.
Right,
Whoever batted...
Because Cabrera came up second, right?
No, he batted third. That was the last out of the inning.
Oh, okay. I thought Bruce was called out, too. I have to read about it. Anyways, it's not super, super important, but it was just... It's just like, how does a Major League ball club bat out of order in the first inning?
Well, that's the second time within the last 2 years it's happened.
For the Mets?
No, for
Or in
any
baseball?
team.
In the first inning?
No, it wasn't.
If it happens another day, like in the middle of a game, I can give them a little more. I mean, I can't give anybody the benefit of the doubt batting out of order in the major leagues.
In the first inning.
But in the first inning, like, you haven't even gone through, like, because I know, like, from playing baseball most of my life, you're like, okay, crap, where are we at here in the line? Oh, eight's up, or, oh shit, the first guy's, I can't, you can't keep track of it.
Who's on first?
Yeah, but how does the coach in the first inning, who just set his lineup, not realize Cabrera's not second?
Well, what they had posted in the dugout was different from what they handed the ump, and that was different from what they had on the website or something, too.
Oh, so they just fucked up all the way around.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty amazing, though. Anyways, so let's talk about, we got a little bit of show left, but let's talk about a pretty landmark decision that was made today. And for us recreational bettors, the three of us sitting here, probably won't change much in our day-to-day lives, but the Supreme Court basically paved the way for states to legalize betting on sports. They lifted a ban that basically relegated it to just Nevada, and that is set to create a pretty sizable windfall for both the gambling industry and sports. Most states in the Northeast, New Jersey is obviously the one leading the charge, can be open within 2 years. With many other states being open within 5 years.
Yes.
Initial thoughts on this ruling, both from your standpoint of a bettor and both from your standpoint of a person who lives in Nevada.
I think it's good for a standpoint as a bettor. I think it has the possibility of change lines a little more value, and you're going to get more action on sports. I think it creates more prop bets, more betting opportunities.
Do you think initially... Maybe, or either initially or at some point, all of the books will be over state lines. Like, how now we recently just got WSOP.com.
Interstate, yeah.
Interstate, yeah. Is it intrastate or interstate? Interstate? Interstate. Yeah. That, now Nevada players can play with players from New Jersey and Delaware.
Delaware,
Yeah.
So, do you think initially... or at some point that will be the same with books? Because I personally believe that Caesars and MGM and probably Wynn, when it opens up in Boston, are already ready for this.
Caesars already announced that they are going to start operating in states where they will pass legislation allowing sports betting.
Well, obviously Atlantic City is number one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they already have spots picked out for a book there, and just waiting for legislation for that state to approve sports betting in that state.
Because according to Vegas Insider, $150 billion is wagered illegally.
Mm-hmm. Sounds about right.
Yeah, I've heard that number too.
And on the flip side, sports books, the take or the revenue from sports betting is only 3% of their actual revenue. But at the same time, for a person like myself, I look at this situation and say, this may not affect the bottom line of a sports book in Vegas, but this may affect the bottom line of a casino, because you come to Vegas, you get a hotel, you eat, you shop, you gamble, and you sports bet, which I know is also gambling. I'm just trying to differentiate the two. I take away that guy's, or I increase that guy's right to sports bet closer to home, and now I've taken away his dining, his shopping, his room, and his flight. And now this guy does not come to Vegas at all.
Yeah. It's going to impact some people like that, but also some hardcore sports bettors are going to come out here no matter what. So.
I mean, I think March Madness and Super Bowl are safe. Those are the two biggest bet events. But I still can see a percentage of those people who come out here for that not coming out here anymore.
Yeah, I say a slimmer percentage of it coming in.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're definitely going to see it because we've seen gaming revenues decline for however many years. They've climbed back up, to a certain degree. I think 1% last year to this year. But, back in the day, you could gamble in Las Vegas and Atlantic City. Now it's something like 30-some-odd states have... 32 states have legalized gambling in some way, shape, or
That's not the lottery.
Right, and... we saw that, and it really came to a head in what year, like 2012 or 2013, which was the first year that casinos reported that gaming revenues were no longer the majority of the money that they were bringing in, or it wasn't the biggest chunk that they were bringing in. They were bringing in from entertainment, from dining, from hotel, from the other aspects of hospitality. So I think... this is just another step in that direction where gaming is no longer an exclusivity to Nevada, and that is certainly going to hurt.
Well, yeah, and I can respect that. That's the thing. A lot of people, nowadays when they make the decision to gamble or play poker or, do whatever inside of a casino, the question begs is, do I spend, money on a flight, a hotel that now has, a tacked-on resort charge, a parking fee that didn't used to be there. When I can just, say I live in Florida, you have Tampa, you have Miami, you have Jacksonville, all for that. Or, Boston's going to have, in Everett, they're going to have the Wynn here soon.
The Encore. They've already changed the name.
Oh, they have?
Yeah.
Oh, because it's because of the Wynn?
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. Point being is that I feel like, okay, yes, as a country or as a person who's in this, do sports bets and is involved in, that kind of thing, it's a great win for America. But as a person who has vested interest in Nevada and most specifically Las Vegas staying afloat, even 3% is again, a small chip, but, enough chips can eventually, no pun intended with chips, but enough chips in the ice can eventually crack the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think overall it's, like you said, definitely a huge win for the United States and interstate revenue for every state as well as federal means. And
oh, yeah, they're going to get their hands on it for sure.
There's still going to be underground gambling, but it's going to go down.
Right, but we're also going to see more creative things. Like we're going to see DraftKings and FanDuel not only join in the sports betting market, but daily fantasy is going to expand to different states with different games.
Please come back to
states.
Nevada.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I hope so.
I see that happening in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Based on this.
Well, you figure if Nevada is, if I don't say Nevada, if Caesars, MGM win, the multinational corporations are already ready to attack. Attack's not the right word. Ready to be involved in these other states.
Ready to take the action on the.
Well, I can see basically them saying, because they're the reasons DFS doesn't exist here.
Yeah.
So I can see them loosening the reins on DFS because they're saying, well, DFS exists everywhere else, and we are now in 32 states or however many they end up getting to be in.
I mean, that's actually not technically correct. There is a very specific line in the Nevada revised statutes that say that the way that sports betting and sports contests operate, that daily fantasy would not be allowed under the way that the legislation is currently written. And this is the problem that I had with it, is that, I wanted to shit on the state assembly and I wanted to shit on the governor for it, but the truth was it was the attorney general, Adam Laxalt, in his office that read the statutes, looked at it, and said, no, we can't allow it in Nevada. It was all. It was from
Attorney General.
Yeah, it was from the Attorney General, who, by the way, is running for governor on a platform of personal freedom, and he was the one that banned daily fantasy sports based on the law, the way it was written.
Did he write the law, or is it?
No, I mean the way his office interpreted the law.
Isn't this something that can be overturned at that point? How do you overturn it?
A new Attorney General would have to come in, look at the law, and say, all right, the law, the way it's written, can apply to daily fantasy, or we take one of our biannual legislative sessions and have them rewrite that statute so that it can include daily fantasy.
Okay, fair enough. So
edit the platform of that and move forward. Yeah,
I'm sure that the casinos weren't saying, "Oh no, you should change that."
Yeah, oh no, they're, believe me, they're not actually. I mean, especially because the daily fantasy that we do have in Nevada is
a pathetic attempt.
USF, which is basically like horse racing,
Yeah.
because it's written in parimutuel rules rather than the true daily fantasy style.
You know, I've tried to look at that, and I understand how horse racing, is the odds are set by the take and how they're always constantly changing, even up to the start of the game. Not, when you place a bet, that's not necessarily your odds. It's, I just can't wrap my head around doing that for sports.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I've never attempted to do it, even though I
tried once and it just confused me, and I was very turned off by it.
And I've bet on horses quite a bit. I actually I would have hit a trifecta on the Kentucky Derby, except I didn't actually make it to the book in time because I was too busy writing that fucking final that ended up disappearing on me anyway.
So, all right, well, I mean, the situation basically here now is, I look at it as a wait-and-see approach, but my initial theory on it is as a Nevada resident who relies on tourism, I feel like legalized sports betting across the country, coupled with a few other factors, this can't be good for the residents of Nevada.
No, and you're almost certainly correct. The only thing that I
like being almost certainly correct.
Yeah, the only thing that I take some solace in is that I don't think legalized sports betting is going to attract so many new sports bettors in these different states. Like, I think people that were betting on sports were already doing it on overseas books.
No, I don't disagree with that. But my point is that, I personally know a group of people who come in for the Super Bowl every year.
Right. Yeah, no, it's the big events that are going to suffer in Vegas.
Right.
If there is suffering to be had.
March Madness is going to be the first instance. I mean, March Madness just got 3,000 times more popular across the country when this is all available and ready.
Oh, yeah.
But it may have given Vegas a hit.
Yeah, I think those kinds of things. But I think not daily fantasy, but like the day-to-day sports betting operations aren't going to be affected.
No.
Probably at all.
And the thing is, the 3% dip or the 3% intake that they see from their Vegas books may take, even if it takes a 1.5% hit, it's going to be made up nationwide. No problem.
They might increase revenue by 500%.
Now, the second, correct. I understand what you're saying with that. But the second part of this process is the moral and ethical part. We have the professional sports associations, the NFL, the Big Four, and on top of that, probably the other ones as well, want to get their hands on a piece of this money.
Yeah.
Does this not create I feel like this creates an ethical situation. I already have told you I believe sports are a business and they're here for our entertainment.
Yes.
And I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on, so I'll put tinfoil hats on you both.
Oh, good.
Always double up.
Doesn't this create an ethical issue if the sports books or if the government, each state or however that all gets decided, decides, yes, these associations, these organizations deserve a cut?
I think the most interesting part of this is going to be if, say, the federal government writes legislation that's kind of blanket legislation that says the states can decide whether or not they want to actually enact sports betting. And that blanket legislation says the NFL gets a cut of this. So let's say Florida decides not to legalize sports betting. Is the league eligible for wagers placed on teams based in Florida, even if the wagers happen someplace else?
That will have to be also deeper written.
Right.
Yeah.
So, these are the kinds of policy issues that are going to come up while this legislation is being written, plus the different states that are writing these, because every state that wants to get involved is going to have to do it their own way.
It has to go to the state legislature.
Right. Which, by the way, I think is the worst part of this, is that every state is going to have their own legislation, which means you're going to have no consistency on how any of this shit is handled across the board.
You could go, just using two states, you could go from Virginia, which only allows you to bet parlays and teasers, or excuse me, yeah, or only allows you to bet parlay cards, which is what Delaware does right now. Delaware actually has a form of sports betting. In its current form, you can only do parlay cards.
Yep.
So Virginia, you go to Virginia, and sports betting's legal here, but it's only in the form of parlay cards. And you go up to West Virginia, which is another one in here, and they have a full slate.
Yeah, props and
Yep.
straight bets and all that. I heard a poll earlier based on what I heard on the radio earlier was Kentucky that was mentioned. And I heard 86% of the people polled in that state, and it's over 4 figures of the people voted on it, and it's like 86% said they are in favor of having it in Kentucky. And governor of Kentucky said he's already going to try and turn it down.
Really?
Yeah.
He won't be the governor there much longer.
Yeah.
No.
And this is part of the problem is that, when you get policy issues like this where the public wants it and then politicians don't, for whatever reason, those politicians don't last too long. Because I was reading the Washington Post put out a poll, 55% nationally are in favor of sports betting being legalized. So, I mean, the market is there. And, you look at other issues like, this is getting probably completely off topic, but if you look at like the net neutrality stuff that's coming up, this is an Obama-era regulation that 75% of Republicans are in favor of, and Republican Congress and the Republican president are trying to get rid of it. These are the kinds of things that kill careers. These are the kinds of so if, Kentucky is saying that they have 80-something% of the people want sports betting, and the governor's trying to turn it down. Yeah, he's out.
At the same time, At the same time, it may be your sample that you took may have been diluted or skewed.
Yeah.
You never know. I do have a hard time believing places like the Bible Belt will be on board this in the next 10, 15 years.
Probably not, but
Idaho, people from Idaho that I've talked to have already said there's no chance they get it.
Really?
Yeah.
I believe Utah would be the last one that would probably get it as well.
Utah's one that probably would take a long
Actually, I don't know, because Utah, they're not Bible Belt. They have Nevada next to them, so the people that are on the Nevada border are already sports betting anyway. So those areas may put pressure on to try to get it. I'm not saying that it would happen quickly, but I think they may be able to put a little more pressure on than some other states.
I believe they're too Mormon of a state to have it be allowed.
You might be right, but I think
Las Vegas used to be a Mormon.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Yeah, it used to be the place for divorces. Now it's a place for weddings.
It's still the place for both.
I was going to say, probably both still happen here.
Believe me, I'm very happy with Nevada's annulment laws as well. Oof.
When I first saw this morning, obviously, like I said, I have excitements and doubts about it. I went online and read a lot about, obviously because sports betting is legal. William Hill is based out of it's a European company.
Yep.
They're the one I interact with the most as far as betting on my phone. And there have been, not specifically William Hill, but in Europe, in the Middle East, and some other countries that have legalized sports betting, there has been many, many, many cases in tennis and soccer of match fixing. And the question I have is you can regulate it as much as you want, but can we see a situation where these organizations begin? I mean, like I said, the skeptic or the cynic in me, when I used to watch basketball and bet on it, can say, how do two teams, go 7 minutes without making a bucket, and then all of a sudden, when I have the under, they score 45 points in 6 minutes. You know what I mean? The skeptic in me sees that's a very small step. There have been clarified, documented cases of match fixing in tennis and in soccer in these countries that are, not necessarily European, but some of the Middle Eastern or, on a lesser scale than U.S.
Even Asian, I would say.
Okay, well, I mean, it's not what I read, but you're probably correct. Do we see a situation where, you can already start putting doubt in people's mind now with sports betting only being legal in one state. Does the take, it'll all depend on what the takes are, because, the NBA is asking for 1%, and I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but 1% of a take is impossible to do because sports books in and out is so fluid.
Right. The revenue that I saw said that Nevada for the last 5 years made between $200 to $250 million on just sportsbook revenue. So, you extrapolate that throughout the country.
Is that profit or intake, though?
That I would have to double check.
Well, there was $100 billion wagered just on the Super Bowl last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, but I mean that's
or
all,
$1 billion. Excuse me, $1 billion wagered. on the Super Bowl.
That's all books.
Just in Nevada.
That was just in Nevada. Yeah.
Oh, so then the $200 million is profit then.
Oh, okay.
Probably got to be revenue.
So
if you're doing 1% of $1 billion, that's $10 million just on that one weekend alone.
But what I'm saying, if over a year the sportsbook's only if one sportsbook makes $100 million, just whatever, throwing out a number, but the NBA by itself takes 1% of the handle, which say they make 10% of their handle, which is $100 million, so they're taking in $1 billion. And like you said, if the NBA wants 1%, help me do the math there. What's that? 1 million or 10 million?
I wasn't paying attention to the numbers, but no.
The point being is you're taking $10 million of my $100 million profit by taking 1% of the
It
handle.
would be $1 million of $100 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1% of $1 billion? So
Of $1 billion?
Billion would be $10 million.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
I thought you said $100 million.
What did I? No, the sportsbook made $100 million, but their take was $1 billion,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and the NBA wants 1% of their take.
That'd be $10 million.
Correct. So now I only made $100 million, but you're getting based on my take, not my revenue, not my
10%.
profit. So you're
10%
taking
profit.
You're taking $10 million of my $100 million in profit.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't handle it. You're not. There's no way. And that's just one sport.
If that much is taken off based on the handle for the sports, you're going to see an increase of juice for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
already hard to beat it.
It's going to happen if that happens, though. Instead of having William Hill at 20% juice for hockey, it's going to go up to like 25 or 30.
Either that, or you're going to pay a fee to have an account, or you're going to pay a fee to bet.
Or like
For every bet, you're going to pay a.
They're going to pay a
percentage
commission
fee.
and a juice, because the juice will be the house, the commission will be for the sports.
or like a monthly membership fee just to be able to keep this app on your phone.
That's what I'm saying, like a
Yeah.
membership fee or So it'd be interesting. 32 states are estimated to be open and offering within 5 years. So
Sounds about right, yeah.
well, obviously, given our podcast, we're going to keep an eye on this as it comes. It's all obviously fresh and new, and they just ripped the Band-Aid off. So because
yeah. We knew it was going to come eventually.
well, it was argued in January, so you're talking about a 4-month deliberation process. So. Well, on that note, it's a good time to stop. So we appreciate you very much listening to our podcast. Once again, for Token Tony, for Spike, I am Aaron. Please check us out on forwardmile.com, on 12ouncesportsradio.com. We want to thank all of our sponsors, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.